Hello everyone, this is Sergey from Ushanka Show, and Ushanka Show is a collection of stories about life in the USSR. In today's video, I'm gonna tell you a pretty wild story how my family managed to acquire a refrigerator back in 1971. And here's our refrigerator. It is called Dnieper 2, and I knew this fridge all my life, I just didn't know the story behind it. Somehow in my recent conversation with my mother, who's right now in Kiev, and we have a chance to FaceTime each other, I mentioned this fridge, and she told me this crazy wild story how she got lucky to win a chance to buy this fridge. So here's what my mom told me. Back in 1971, she said it was impossible to buy a refrigerator at the store. Stores were empty. And what was done, refrigerators will be brought directly to the factories, straight from warehouses. I'm not sure why. And then people, so there'll be like 5 refrigerators for some factory. And then every department, for example, if they have 5 departments, they have 5 fridges. And everyone wants to buy a new fridge. So they will have a lottery, but different kind. They will have a hat. And for example, 50 people want to participate, all the workers. So they have 50 pieces of paper, which one had a cross on it. The rest were blank. So whoever pulls the piece of paper with the cross, that's the lucky winner to buy a refrigerator. So such lottery was happening at my mom's place of work, but at that time she already left for the maternity leave. She was pregnant with me, and back in 1971, a woman had a paid maternity leave, декретный отпуск, 8 weeks before the birth and another 8 weeks after. So she wasn't there, but people remember about her, and they had 50 pieces of paper instead of 49. And guess what? 49 people pulled out of the hat pieces of paper, and all 49 were blank. The last one laying on the bottom was my mom's, and it had X on it. So that's how my family won a chance to purchase a refrigerator. So this fridge was the first major purchase for my family. My parents got married in 1970, and despite being pretty small, this is the data for this fridge. It's in Russian, but it's 1 meter 16 centimeters tall, so it's slightly over 4 feet tall, 56 centimeters wide, so it's almost like a student dorm size refrigerator, but still was quite expensive. My mother said that her salary at that time was about 95 rubles per month, and my dad's about 110, 120 rubles per month, and this refrigerator was 250 rubles. And here's so-called технический passport, technical passport for this refrigerator. It says холодильник Dnieper 2, refrigerator Dnieper 2, and on the first page, it says the price of the refrigerator on the bottom right, 250 rubles. So that's kind of interesting part of life in the Soviet Union. Prices were already printed at the factory. So it's not MSRP, manufacturer suggested retail price. It's actual retail price. There is no sales. So it's pretty expensive. And my parents had to use 12 months рассрочка payment plan, so they got the fridge and then they paid it off in 1 year, and our next purchase was black and white TV Slavut. And this is how our fridge looks inside. I took this photo about 10 years ago, and there is a white flap down door which gives you access to a small freezer. And we didn't have frozen pre-made foods like TV dinners and stuff available at all. There was hardly anything frozen for sale besides like fish, so we just kept fresh frozen meat in there and nothing else. But I need to mention that this fridge was like a tank. It never failed on us. I don't think we ever had to do any repairs. It was just chugging along all these years since 1971. And it was moved basically, 2 times from our dorms into our small apartment back in 1976. And then again back in 1980. It was moved to our current location. It's still there and still working. And here's my mom in our kitchen. I took this photo during one of my visits, and they asked me to help them to buy a new refrigerator. So behind her, it's a new Bosch fridge. So you see it's way taller, way bigger, and they still kept the old Dnieper 2. So on the one side of the kitchen, we have a big Bosch. On the opposite side is a little fridge from 1971. And when I asked my mother why they don't want to get rid of it, she said, well, it's perfect height for me to do my makeup, and also it works really well to have a microwave on the top of it. How I bought microwave for my parents is another story that was hilarious. But anyway, so it's still running, we still have food there, but it's also work as a microwave stand. And I just remembered I also managed to win in one of such a silly lotteries when you win the right to purchase something, but it was in the late 80s, and there was a pair of winter boots like for women. Of course, I don't cross dress on the weekends, but you could buy and then resell it, make some money, or trade for some other goods. So I participated in that lottery and I won. I was very excited, and then I was waiting for several days till those boots would arrive, but they never did. And only later I discovered that our manager got a new secretary and she really wanted those boots, so they quietly just sold it to her. And so, yeah, I won, but I never got my prize. Hey, and before I forgot, let's do a quick lesson of Russian language. Холодильник. Холодильник. So that's the word for refrigerator. Холод means cold. Холодильник. And some of you may recall a story that I shared before, how I bought another refrigerator, also for my mother, but when she moved back to her village where she grew up, and she needed a refrigerator. So I told my brother, it's way too expensive to buy a fridge and move it all the way 250 kilometers north of her village. So let's, on the way to her place, we're gonna, take a bus, and then there's a small town, Snovsk, and have a couple appliance stores. So we're just gonna buy a fridge right there. And I believe in the power of capitalism, because at that time there was, 2000s. We will get free delivery, or we'll pay for delivery, and they will deliver us and refrigerator. So we just went like that, no Google search. I arrived like at 5 p.m. to Snovsk, and I stayed at the bus station with luggage, and my brother ran around. It was Friday. It was a funny thing. He found a refrigerator, he bought it, he set up delivery. So about an hour later, there was a small delivery truck with the fridge, and with my brother, I hopped in, and we got fridge delivered to my mom's village, all done perfectly. The only challenge was for the owner of the store. He had plenty of fridges to choose from. You don't need any stupid lotteries. He had a hard time finding a driver who wasn't drunk on Friday afternoon. He had to make several phone calls, and it was like, hey, are you drunk? I have a delivery. So he finally found someone who didn't start drinking yet. So yeah, that was amazing experience after growing up in Soviet Union, where people at the stores don't care about your money. It's just, they didn't. And here we arrived to the small town in northern Ukraine, and my brother just goes with US dollars, and they'll happily take your money. We'll set up delivery, and they got that fridge delivered to my mom's, and she was using it for years. And speaking of stupid lotteries, just in case if you missed my stories about normal lotteries in the Soviet Union, I have a pretty long video that describes all the types of lotteries we used to have, and link will be also below in the comment section. And now let's watch together some old reels how the refrigerators used to be made in the Soviet Union. Enjoy the show. my friends, I hope you enjoyed this another episode of Ushanka Show. If you like this story, please don't forget to like it, and we'll talk to you soon. До побачення. Goodbye.